Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian, Pace reporting live here at the Blue Note here in New York City. As part of the 30th anniversary of the Blue Note's monumental celebration and being in existence, tonight the George Duke Trio, including Miss Brenda Russell tonight, will be performing. George Duke has been an accomplished music director, producer, as well as pianist and keyboardist, backing the likes of Anita Baker, Rochelle Farrell, Brenda Russell, as well as Al Jarreau. Tonight we're going to sit down and talk about his career, as well as his trio, which features Grammy-Award winning bassist Esperanza Spaulding and Terri Lyne Carrington on drums. You've had a heck of a week. I know you're tired.
A little bit, yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about this trio. I mean, you have two dynamic bassists this week, and you have the wonderful Terri Lyne Carrington.
Absolutely. Well, Terri is one of my favorite drummers. She, I can't use her all the time because she's the president of Berklee School of Music now. In spirit. No, but she's a very in-demand drummer, and it's I was really thankful that she was able to help me out in this week because we had some conflicts going on in my regular band, and she's the one that was enabling me to get Esperanza as well for the 3 days that my bass player couldn't make it. So that was like an extra treat that nobody knew about it, and we didn't want to tell anybody because she's got a gig coming over here. So we had to be real quiet. Didn't tell the club owner, didn't tell anybody except my tour manager.
How's it like working with the Grammy winner now?
Well, she's a fabulous young talent. Basically, I sent the music to her. The first day she got here, she was just reading it through. Just goes to show you, right? Because that's a lot of stuff. She had to learn my material. She had to learn Brenda Russell's material and Al Jarreau's material. It was a large body of work that she had to learn.
Being the MD, and you've done this for a while. I mean, I think the very first time I saw you, Al, and Rochelle Farrell was about 2000, 2001 in Detroit.
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of touring with Rochelle. That's I kind of, to a degree, stopped exactly what you said. Stopped touring with a lot of singers because people get the conception that you an MD, and that I ain't an MD. I am not a music director. This is basically, but it kind of feels like that, because I'm still doing that kind of work, But of course, I love Rochelle. I mean, it's there's nobody out there like Rochelle.
You're dealing with a whole bunch of personalities. Al's, left planet, and then you've got Brenda, who's kind of down to earth.
Yeah, they're two different personalities, and the music's very different too. And this is the first time Brenda and I have worked together on stage at all. We've never worked in the studio together, and never worked on stage playing with each other. I've been on the same show, but this is the very first time, and it's a pleasure because she's written some material that I think is just absolutely amazing. That's why I really consider her one of the premier songwriters of our time, really.
You don't scare me when you live in the street, walking in New York. But there's a kind of heart you become a part of, walking in talking, walking in New York. There are times that will always stay somewhere in your thoughts. One of mine will always be walking in New York. Oh, oh. All you need is one good friend and some time to spend. Yeah. Stopping for coffee in some cafe. Life without a care, yeah, yeah. Oh, but you don't skip a beat when you're hitting the street. Walking in New York, ooh, there's a kind of heart you become a part of. Walking in New York, yeah, yeah, yo. Walking in New York, oh, me and my friends just walking, talking, walking in New York. Choo, 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 choo.
You know, your career has taken many, many different facets. I mean, you've gone from MD to producer to keyboardist. Right now, where do you feel comfortable right now?
All of it, depends on what side of the bed I get up on. I get bored easily, I guess. I prefer not to be one-dimensional. It's when I started out, I wanted to learn how to play the piano. And once I kind of figured I had that together, I said, well, let me see what this is. I play some classical music, play some jazz. Then I said, okay, play some gospel. Now, what else is that? Oh, what's that? Oh, it's some jazz. Okay, so like some Ray Charles kind of funky gospel jazz kind of stuff. And then I heard Bill Evans say, oh, let me investigate that. And so it just kept growing, and I kept renewing my goals. And I didn't see any reason that I shouldn't be able to play whatever style of music I wanted to play, no matter what critics said, no matter what fans said. I took, my cue really in many ways from Miles Davis, so it's a little different way, because he gave me the license to say, hey, man, sure, Miles can play a funk beat. Why can't I? And so Herbie Hancock, a lot of guys like that took a lot of heat. When I joined Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, I took a lot of heat, because they said, oh, jazz players gone down the drain. Well, then don't call me a jazz player. I'd rather be a good musician that can, not necessarily to cut myself short in every area and just be dabbling in everything. But I try to get my foot into everything. So I really understand what makes straight ahead work. I understand what makes funk work. I understand what makes Brazilian music work, because you have to study it and understand what the culture is. So that's almost what I pride myself on, and style is irrelevant. I don't care if it's the funkiest gut bucket music as opposed to Stravinsky. It's the value is the same to me. Just because one music is simpler than another or considered more archaic, that's not necessarily the truth. Doesn't mean it's not good. So style is irrelevant. As an artist, style is irrelevant. That's for selling stuff. Label, this is jazz, this is funk, this is commercial, this is blah. Music is music. If I like it, I don't care what style it is. Only one form of music I don't like.
What's that?
Hawaiian. I can't. I'm kind of like, okay, they're trying to put me to sleep. I'm not really, nothing against Hawaiians, because they got some beautiful people down there. They do, but I just don't like that music. Woo!
Speaking of Frank Zappa, I wanted to hit on that because you had said that, people had, the police was saying, how's a jazz guy playing with Frank Zappa? But quiet as kept, Frank Zappa was a jazz head.
Yeah, he wouldn't admit it, though. Yeah, he had a lot of jazz musicians in his band and played a lot of jazz. And that was almost a requirement to be in the band. The kind of guys that he had in his band, especially when I was there, were pretty much all jazz players. But there were 2 or 3 things that they had to have. They had to have a sense of humor, be outrageous, be able to really play their instrument. They didn't necessarily have to read. It would help. But they had to have real big ears if they couldn't read music. And so the musicianship level had to be really, really, really high. But you had to be nuts at the same time. And the way I got that gig is I was working with Jean-Luc Ponty at this little club, in a rock club, and called The Experience in L.A. And I was in there, and I said the only way I would play this place, I told the guy from World Pacific Jazz, I said, I'll do this record with Jean-Luc, but please have a piano. Don't have one of those little sawed-off pianos down there, electric pianos. I didn't want to play electric piano. I went there, what do they have? An electric piano, a silver top Rhodes. So I said, but then I found out, I said, okay, well, Jarreau Wilson was there, Frank Zappa, Quincy Jones, Cannonball. So I said, oh, I got to be on tonight, and there were all these girls running around with no bras. It was a rock club, and they were standing up and dancing when we played. Not the jazz clubs, they sat down. And listen, this was a totally different environment. And so, but he thought we could get over there. So I took this little Fender Rhodes, I played with my feet, I bit the piano, I put my legs up on it. You'd have thought I was Jerry Lee Lewis or something playing jazz. And Frank says, I like this guy. He's outrageous. That really wasn't who I was, though. But eventually, I figured out what he wanted, and he really brought me out of my shell. I mean, he's the first one to get me to sing, first one to get me to play synthesizers. He encouraged me to allow my humor. He says, "Look, you're funny off stage. Just let the stage be a larger version of who you are as a person." And he told me to invest in myself. Not necessarily think about the stock market and all that. He says, "Your best asset is you." I mean, Frank he gave me a lot of pearls of wisdom, and including he was the first guy I ever met that knew as much about the recording studio and that process as an engineer. I mean, he would tell the engineer, he says, okay, I want 2 of 10. I said, what did he say? What does that mean? I mean, I had no idea. Now I know what it means. But then the jargon that he used, it just seemed like he knew something about the full nature of the music business.
And sometimes you cross my mind, and I don't know why, but I'll hear from you. And though I want to stay close, I realize the most we'll ever be as good friends. 'Cause I got kids at home, I can't leave them alone, girl, I'm telling you. I got another life, 'cause I still love my wife.
I heard an interview with you, Tabitha Smiley, that you said that some of your songs that were hits were just by accident, and one of them is No Rhyme and No Reason. Tell me the background behind that.
Okay. Well, No Rhyme, No Reason is actually a true story. Excuse me. And something that happened to me, and I was kind of sweet on this lady. And it kind of affected my relationship, with my significant other, really. And I was thinking about it when I wrote the lyrics to the song. The song came like water, just like going down to sing, just easy. But I wasn't brave enough to write that lyric at first. So I had 3 sets of lyrics. And finally I woke up one day, I said, you know what? I got to keep this real. So I threw out the other lyrics and said, I'm going to tell it like it is. It was like confession, really. And so I put it out. I didn't want it to be the first single because it didn't really represent the album. And this guy, Hank Spann, at Warner Brothers Records says, man, I put this on in my office and the ladies walked by. He said, this is a hit record. And I said, okay, we're going to put it out second, right? No, man, this has got to be the first single. I said, oh, no. I said, okay. He says, I'm telling you, this is the first single. Put it out, and it became a national anthem in the black community, really. In many ways. And women, whew, I used to tell this little story, which I'm not going to tell you now, in front of this thing. And I used to see women like in the front row, like hit the men, they take their elbow and go, I'd say something. And it was not a true story. It was just a hypothetical story. But I had to stop telling it. Because I said, some people got angry. I said, one night I saw some woman walk out. She said, I was in the middle of the story. I said, uh-oh, I better be quiet.
dynamic producer because you visually and in your ear know what musician works with what songs, like Anita Baker or Rochelle or Al Jarreau. How did you step into that role?
Well, it's just ears. You know, I try to pick the musicians that I think can bring life to the music. You know, it's that's really the bottom line. You generally it's a small group of people, but I wouldn't call it. You know, most musicians are specialists. You know, they specialize in one form of music. I'm a little different than that because I kind of specialize in a lot of different things. But generally, I'm still me, though I wear different hats. You know, just because if I produce Jeffrey Osborne, it's totally different than dealing with Anita Baker because the needs are different. And if the music's different, I require some different musicians. You know, and I generally know who they are. You know, for this gig I'm doing with Al Jarreau, it was quite obvious that if my regular drummer couldn't make it, who's played this show, we've done a lot of shows with Al, then my next call was to Terri. Because she's played with Al, she's got big ears, she can read, and she understands Al, you know, and she understands the music and can bring it to life. Not the same way as my drummer, but she brings her own thing to the party. She brings more stuff to the party. You know, it's an interesting dynamic because I love to let people bring their own meal to the table and add it to the gumbo, and let's come up with a new baby. It doesn't have to be like somebody else played it. I treat albums when I produce the exact same way. A lot of producers nowadays, especially young guys, produce artists. They produce the songs and the artists come sing on it. So everything sounds the same. It's a producer's medium. You know, I prefer the artist medium where the artist has an individual vibe, an individual voice and statement. And so when I produce Jeffrey Osborne, it sounds different than Howard Hewitt, or it sounds different than Anita Baker, or different than Sister Sledge, or any of those acts that I was working with at the time. They're all individual, you know? And that doesn't even mention the jazz artists that I produce.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at the Blue Note here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank George Duke for his time, as well as Esperanza Spaulding and Terri Lyne Carrington, as well as the staff and management here at the Blue Note. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.